How fast can a submarine go when it's driven only by people power? Scientific Americans agree with solution. And it's really magic, but you ask how they do that.
It's the admitted handiwork of two local men. Their hoax is over, but the circles are back. Does anyone have a clue? When 2020 continues after this from our ABC stations. News 2020 continues. Once again, Barbara Walters.
Well, now a mystery that would have tested Sherlock Holmes. The case of the reappearing circles. You probably thought it was solved years ago when newspapers around the world carried the confessions of the culprits. But someone or something is still etching fantastic patterns in the fields of this country and abroad. As Bob Brown discovered, new clues have turned up, and so has an army of amateur detectives determined to solve this most intriguing whodunit.
You may remember all those stories about the crop circles, those strange, unexplained formations that appeared overnight, summer after summer, in the farm fields of south-central England. You may also remember how the wind was knocked out of that mystery when two men claimed that they, not some weather phenomenon, not UFOs or magnetic fields, had created the formations.
Well, there was an obsession, we just couldn't leave it alone.
In a demonstration broadcast throughout England 4 years ago, Douglas Bauer and Dave Chorley said that after a night of drinking in a pub, they began making the circles in 1978 using the simplest of implements, a 6-foot board on a rope, to trample down crops so that the stems fell into ever-widening circles and ever more complex formations under the light of the moon.
There's the first circle. 1978.
Mr. Bauer has kept all the newspaper clippings that remind you what a frenzy there was when those circles started appearing. Their makers were never seen.
How could any 2 or 3 people make all of these circles in this short of a time?
Well, we used to journey over 200 miles some evenings. You know, it's a marvelous feeling to be in the middle of a cornfield at 1 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's in bed. You're the only 2 people in that vast expanse of land. The right-hand side of the stick is stationary.
Mr. Bauer says other hoaxers also discovered the joys of cornfields at midnight, and that's one reason why to this day the circles haven't stopped appearing even though he stopped making them. And that may sound like the final word until you mention Doug and Dave in the wrong pub.
The thing about old Doug is he's a sly old fox, and you can smell him from a mile away.
It's disinformation.
Now I have to go try it. These people insist that hoaxers couldn't possibly have made all the formations that have been discovered. They still believe there is a phenomenon of some kind behind the appearance of the circles, and they're dedicated to investigating it, gathering to share stories and information, sightings.
Yeah, it's a really breathtaking thing.
There's a fantastic one down in Hampshire.
This pub in Honey Street, England, The Barge, has become an unofficial gathering place for people from all over the world who call themselves croppies and who come every summer when the crops are high and the circles appear.
Isn't it incredible? Oh my God!
All different.
All different.
Sculpture, every one.
Yes. Yes.
Peter Sorensen, a 53-year-old Californian among the growing contingent of Americans, has spent the last 4 summers videotaping the crop formations from the air.
Oh my God! Look at that!
In a way, it doesn't matter who is making these things. If they're human beings indeed, these human beings are having a tremendous effect on the consciousness of thousands and thousands of people around here.
The circles are undeniably beautiful and compelling to look at. They are formed when stalks of wheat or other crops are laid low to the ground after night falls, sometimes in perfect circles and sometimes in patterns that resemble hieroglyphics. They are concentrated here in south-central England, but they have been found in other countries, including the U.S.
A few days ago, it was just another grassy field, a strange pattern measuring...
How do you do that? I don't know how you do that. That's impossible.
Believers say our farmlands are so vast that circles are harder to find here. But Randall McAllister found this 46-footer last year in a rye field in Bethune, South Carolina.
Like it was cut with a giant cookie cutter. You know what I'm saying? Okay, what we're looking at is a phenomenon that won't quit.
And that's what attracted us back to this story. It won't quit. It survives on a measure of human nature, a model of how irrepressible a phenomenon can be once it's caught the fancy of enough people. Some believe in UFOs, some believe in weather phenomena, some believe the circles form a pattern of communication from some higher intelligence. Everyone has a theory.
Every single person you will talk to will have a different and very firmly believe in this. Their answer is the best answer.
And like our affair with the Loch Ness Monster farther north, that obsession with circles has taken hold as an industry unto itself.
Corn circles appearing all over the land.
This tour group of Americans paid roughly $2,000 a person for a tour that includes visits to the crop circle.
Don't worry about the sheep, they won't worry you.
Nobody knows where they come from. Nobody understands.
Because we're not talking about one or two people now, we're talking about thousands in some areas. And of course
it's grown that much.
Oh yes, it has.
The last 2 to 3 years, been a lot more.
More tourists?
Yeah.
Steve Sheen, the farm manager in whose fields this circle appeared, says that to him, the revived interest only means that he's constantly dealing with intruders who, unlike this group, don't ask permission.
Yesterday, I turfed out another dozen people who were obviously on a tour.
Turfed out, you said?
I told them to go away. In no uncertain terms.
Sheen says he'll believe the circles are man-made until someone proves differently.
Convince me.
Here's the proof.
Mysterious symbols in the fields.
I simply see what I see, which is a multiplicity of astonishingly articulate design. I don't know how they're made. They could not be man-made.
Among the circle experts you may find of an evening back at the barge, one of the most prominent this summer was a London businessman named Michael Glickman. Mr. Glickman is compiling a book of photographs he hopes to publish. His emphasis is on the design.
If there is this team of people, they are massively funded. They are erudite in geometry and drawing and proportion. They are capable of invisibility because they've never been seen or caught. They are capable of floating above the ground because they've never left a track. What is their motive, please?
No one knows, are they phony? Or maybe are they real?
We saw others we encountered at the barge fanning out into the fields by day to collect samples of plants.
We're totally passionate. It's our passion. I can't think of anything more exciting to me than to be within a crop circle. I never cease to feel the awesomeness and the magic of it.
Watch your hand, Nancy. Oh, yeah, they're okay.
Those samples we saw collected arrived 3 weeks later at a laboratory in Michigan that's supported by an enthusiastic group of Americans. It's called BLT for John Burke, W.C. Levengood, and Nancy Talbot, its 3 founders.
I think that many scientists have been totally unaware of the anomalous things going on inside the plant that are totally impossible to vandalize or hoax.
While there are those looking for UFOs and those whose passion is design, BLT seeks a natural cause. Levengood, who has published papers in mainstream academic journals, says he doesn't think hoaxers could have produced the differences he's measured in plants taken from inside the circles.
The node length increase can be as much as 200 or 300%. In other words, can be as much as 1 or 2 millimeters increase. I measure every one. This is a normal node here. This is from the control plants. You can see here that the node literally has a hole blown in it from the inside outward. That is a blown node. And in some cases, you see it just splits it right off the side. This is damn good evidence, I would say, that this is a genuine formation.
The explanation, favored by Levengood and his colleague John Burke, is that gas from the ionosphere, plasma, is attracted toward Earth by magnetic fields.
It spirals its way down, and it gets smaller and tighter and moves faster until it hits the ground and knocks down the crop. That's the simple version that will give you a simple circle.
As for those more complex circles, Burke says maybe they're similar to results produced by laboratory experiments in fluids.
The crescent shapes, which have been showing up increasingly the last 2 years, are also seen in plasma physics in the laboratory, where they organize themselves spontaneously.
All of the scientists we contacted said there were holes in the theories that don't account for the behavior of plasma, or the possibility that plants could have been damaged in other ways. They found the ideas implausible. But implausible has never been a discouraging word to those who've stayed the course of this phenomenon. There is still great drama in the discovery of these evolving formations, however they are made. And like many things that touch the sentiments in human nature, they have their seasons. The summer of '95 was a